So this equation is from the 2023 A-level math exam, and this is like the question that I will tell you. You definitely don't want to get this wrong on the test. Make sure you get the 4 points for this. And just to make this video more interesting, I would like to show you guys 3 ways to solve this. The first way is their suggestion. Here we have 6x plus 7 square root of x minus 20 is equal to 0. Well, because we have the square root of x here, the suggestion is that let's do a substitution, let u equal to square root of x. And the purpose of doing so is because, notice this is x to the first power. If we square both sides, we will see that x is just u squared. And now let's put this and that to here. So we have 6u squared plus 7, and that will be the u, and then minus 20, and that's equal to 0. Now, we can clearly see that this is a quadratic equation in terms of u, and this is actually factorable. I will show you guys the tic-tac-toe way to factor it, but of course you can do it with whichever factoring method that you like. By the way, I do have a video, 5 popular ways of factoring. I will have that link in the description so you can check out the other methods if you would like. Anyways, for this, I will ask myself what times what give us 6u squared, and you can choose u times 6u or 2u times 3u, right? I'm going to start off with 2u times 3u, and then I will have to make sure that this is correct by looking at what times what will give us negative 20. Let me do this one on purpose so I can show you how the method works. If I put negative 2 and 10, this is going to be wrong. Once I put them down, I will check, right? 2u times 10, that's 20u. And then negative 2 times 3u, that's negative 6u. Together, we do not get 7u. So this is not the correct combination. But don't worry, just try again. So let's try negative 4 and 5. Okay, if you put negative 4 here, you can kind of think about this in your head. 5 here, that will give us 10u, and then that's minus 12u, so no. But if I put negative 4 here and 5 here, I think it works wonders, because this times this is negative 8u, and this times that is 15u. Together, we do end up with positive 7u that we need, so it checks. Then to continue, I will just write down the factoring is you go across 2u plus 5, and then the other one is 3u minus 4, and that's equal to 0. So of course, now we can just set the first factor equal to 0, and then the next factor equal to 0. So for the first factor, 2u plus 5 equal to 0, that means u. Put this to the other side, divide both sides by 2, so we have negative 5 over 2. Not done yet though, because we don't want u, we want x. But u is the same as square root of x. Now, square root of x is equal to a negative number. This right here is impossible, not even with complex numbers. So this right here, not possible, so you don't consider this. Just ignore that, okay? And then we will look at the other solution. We have the 3u minus 4 equal to 0. Add the 4 to both sides, divide the 3 to both sides. U equals 4 over 3. U is square root of x. And then from here, we can just square both sides. So this and that cancel. And remember, to check, technically I should have mentioned that this right here is positive, so square both sides is legit. The output of square root cannot be a negative number. So this right here, don't even continue. Otherwise, you will just get a fake answer, right? But this right here is a legitimate answer. X equals 16 over 9, right? So we are done. Now the next method is that if you don't want to do the u substitution, you can actually just directly factor it, and I'll show you that as well. Now, this is how it works. First, notice that we have square root of x in the middle term right here, and this right here is just x. And notice, if we square the square root, we get x. So this is a quadratic equation in terms of square root of x. We can just go ahead and factor it directly, and again, let's use the tic-tac-toe method. And the numbers will be the same as what we had earlier. So I'm just going to write that down. 2 and 3. But this time, I will write down square root of x times square root of x. Not only square root of x times square root of x will give us x, but the square root of x matches with this right here. Now, for the negative 20, like we said earlier, it will be 5 and negative 4. And then you take this times this is negative 8 square root of x. This times this is positive 15 square root of x. Together, we do end up with positive 7 square root of x. So even the term match. So the rest is just factoring. You go across 2 square root of x plus 5 times 3 square root of x minus 4, and that's equal to 0. So if you put this equal to 0, then you will get square root of x equals negative 5 over 2. And as we mentioned earlier, this right here is not possible. So don't worry about it. But for this right here, of course, put a 4 and then divide the 3. So square root of x equals 4 over 3. And then right here, you just square both sides. So x equals 16 over 9. And this is the only answer. Now, how about the third way though? Let's have a look. Now, when we have an equation with square roots, you can first try to isolate the square root part and then square both sides. So let's try that. So I'm going to keep this on the left hand side. We have 7 square root of x, but then I will have to add the 20 to both sides. So that's positive 20, and then bring the 6x to the other side. So that's minus 6x. Then you see that we have square root of x right here with a 7 in front. If you divide everybody by 7, you end up with fractions. So you don't want to do that. Here, it's actually okay, even though you have a number in front of the square root of x. You can still go ahead and square both sides. Now, for this right here, because we have 7 times square root of x and then square, you can just kind of distribute the power. So that will be 7 squared, which is 49. Square root of x squared is just x, and then we are done for that. But for this, we have 20 minus 6x and then squared. For this right here, we will really have to use the formula. So let me remind you guys, if we have a minus b squared, this right here is going to give us a squared and then minus 2ab, okay, and then plus b squared, like this. A lot of people forget about the middle terms, so make sure you remember that. So here we go. We will have to do the first term square. 20 squared, we get 400. Next, this is the minus, so in the middle term will be minus. And just do 2 times AB. So take 2 times 20 is 40 times 6x. 40 times 6 is 240. And then we also have the x. Lastly, we add this term squared. So 6 squared is 36. And then we also need the x squared. All right, now we have a quadratic equation. Let's go ahead and make one side equal to 0. Subtract 49x to both sides. Okay, so we have, let's do this. I'm going to write this down first. We have 36x squared, and then this and that is negative 289, and then plus 400, and that is equal to 0. As you can see, if you do it this way, you end up with a quadratic equation with much bigger numbers. So you don't want to do this way. Do the second way though, I think it's the shortest one. But I will still continue with this for you guys. Okay, factor this right here. To get 36x squared, you may want to try 2x times 18x, or maybe 4x times 9x, or maybe 6x times 6x, or maybe 36x times x, right? Especially if we didn't do the methods earlier. But I kind of knew the answer because we know at the end it has to be what? 16 over 9, right? So we must have a 9 somewhere here. So we must have 9x and 4x. If you just give me this like right on the spot, like somewhere on the street, or like in the middle of the night or something, and ask me to factor, it will take me some time to do it, okay? But like, seriously, because we must have the 9. So that's how I know. And moreover, we must have the 16 somewhere, right? So here is the 16, because that's going to be multiplied, well actually 16 right here. 有喜欢. We must have the 16, so that later on the factor will be like this. Moreover, it should be negative because that's negative and that's plus. So this should be negative and this right here should also be negative. Now for 400, divided by 16, that's going to be 2, which is 32, and then minus, that will be 8, and then 5, so 80. So 25, but again, that should be minus. Now check this out. 9x times negative 25, that's negative 225 x. And then negative 16 times 4x, that's negative 64x. All right, negative 289x, perfect. So we have the factors, go across, we have 9x minus 16 times 4x minus 25 equal to 0. Now from here, you can just see that, put this equal to 0, and then isolate the x. So x equals, add the 16 to both sides, and then divide the 9. That's why I said I knew we must have the 9 and the 16, and that should be negative, so that we end up with positive x here. And then right here, we get x is equal to, do the same thing. The other side becomes 25, and then this right here is 4. Hey, we saw this earlier, like previously, but what's this? Well, here is the danger whenever we square both sides of an equation. Sometimes we may end up with extraneous solutions, meaning fake answers. So, whenever you are solving a square root equation, you should always plug in the answer back to the original to double check. And I will tell you, this right here is the only answer because we did this earlier. But this right here is not going to work. So I'll show you. So let me plug in 25 over 4 into the x's here. So we will have 6 times 25 over 4, and then plus 7 times the square root of 25 over 4, and then minus 20. Let's see if we end up with 0 or not. Okay, this right here, we can simplify this a little bit. This is going to be 2 and 3. So this times that, 75 over 2, plus, this is 5 over 2. 5 times 7 is 35, and then over 2. And then at the top, that's going to be 110 over 2. This is 55 minus 20. Well, this is 35, which is of course not equal to 0. So this right here is not going to work, right? And now you might be wondering, how come whenever we square both sides of the equation, we end up with a extraneous solution, meaning it's like a fake answer, the answer that doesn't work? Well, I'll give you guys a quick explanation. So let's say we have 3 and negative 3. And of course, these are not equal. But what if we square both sides? On the left-hand side, we have 3 squared. And on the right-hand side, we have negative 3 squared. This right here is positive 9. And negative 3 times negative 3 also gives us positive 9. And as you can see, they become equal. This is a danger whenever we square both sides of an equation. Sometimes we just get like extraneous solutions. Once again, it means the fake answer.